I open the Planning and Zoning Commission for October 3rd, 2018. Roll call, please.
Barbie?
Here.
Buckley? Castro? Maxwell?
Here.
Wright?
Here.
Chair Doe?
Here.
4 present.
Approval of the agenda. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? And if none, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
So moved by Barbie.
Second.
Second by Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And the approval of the September 5th, 2018 minutes. Any corrections, additions, or deletions? And if none, I'll take a motion.
So move.
So moved by Wright.
Second.
Second by Barbie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. This is the public participation portion of the meeting. Anyone who's interested in speaking on an item that is not part of the agenda, you're welcome to come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
It's been a long day. I don't know if I can remember either.
Ditto.
Bessie Chronopoulos, 423 Gale Avenue. And I'm going to say pretty much what I've been saying many, many times, and I'm going to more or less point this more towards our staff. The Planning and Zoning Commission is an extremely important one. Actually, second to the City Council, it is probably the most powerful commission because of the fact that they are involved so intimately with planning. I think we have some very good people on the board. I've had occasion, I don't know all of you, I've had occasion to talk with and meet with many of you over the years, and I know how dedicated you are. However, I think staff needs to push more to do more training for our Planning and Zoning Committee. There are courses, there are classes offered through the state about good planning practices and so on. And you know as well as I do that over the last 4 years or so, the Plan Commission has not been meeting as often as it could and should. And part of the things that they could be meeting on, not only to be trained and exposed to a lot of the information, but also to work on the comprehensive plan. It sadly needs attention, especially as DeKalb is wanting to grow and expand. You can't do that well without sound planning practices, and you can't do that without a very strong plan commission. So, and I'm sorry to see that it's not a full board up there. That's something that hopefully we can work on, and we'll kind of push the mayor to do that. So I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just looking for the best that we can offer for our citizens, and I thank you for your dedication and your hard work.
Thank you. So I'm going to make note that Ms. Chronopoulos is the only person in the public here, so we'll move on to our next item, new business. We have a public hearing, a petition by Gary and Sarah Lyle for a variance to Article 5.02, Single Family Residential District 2, excuse me, of the UDO in order to allow for a garage addition to encroach into the front and rear yard setbacks on the subject property located at 209 West Hillcrest Drive. So I open to the petitioners first. If you have anything you'd like to let us know or tell us about your project. And if you can state your name and address.
Yep, my name is Gary Lyle, 209 West Hillcrest Drive in DeKalb. And my family and I have lived in DeKalb since May of 2004. And we've been in the same house the whole time and love our neighborhood, love our community. Here's a picture from Hillcrest Drive of our house pretty recently. And you can see it's a single-story brick house. And we have, over the course of our time, really enjoyed our neighborhood. Here's kind of a topographical look at our neighborhood area. You can see that we're a corner lot. There, just as you enter the Hillcrest subdivision, we're just a block west of First Street. And here's kind of a topographical look from the air of where our house sits, pretty much center, just a little bit left on your map. And here's another look at that. So since we've been in our house, we have tried to continue to make updates and improvements to it. We have our approved permits all on file with the city of the different things that we've done over the years. We've added a drain tile and sump pump to a house that needed one. We finished our basement off and remodeled our bathrooms. We added some maintenance-free windows in the house, as well as making the rest of the exterior maintenance-free and energy efficient with the soffits, the trim, the windows I mentioned. And we've widened our driveway, added a patio, put a small shed in the back, put a chain link fence on the side yard to keep visibility. And in the front, we have a quality vinyl fence on the west side of that property. We've added some new landscaping and trees to replace trees that were dead or removed previously. And we're continuing to make improvements to our home. We like where we live. We've talked about selling and getting a different house that had more things, but we really like the community that we're in right here in DeKalb and want to continue to make this a nicer place to not only be a place that we can enjoy, but that will improve the overall appeal of our neighborhood and subsequently the property values of the neighborhood houses due to ours being improved as well. So here is an aerial view of where our house is, and sketched out in the blue is the proposed footprint and dimensions of a single car garage, one-story single stall garage attached right next to the existing one-car garage that is already there. And the footprint of that will go to the rear of the house. It's about 25 3/4 feet deep and then 13 feet straight out from the house, giving us about 335 square feet of space. And so this is the improvement that we would like to make to our home, just by adding this one-car garage to bring our house to a total of a 2-stall garage. Here's another view without the house picture itself, just so you can see the footprint itself a little bit clearer. The dark gray strip that you see just to the right, to the east of the garage, that little 2.2 foot area is concrete that we would widen on the driveway, not on the approach, but it would be just between the sidewalk and the house to add a 2-foot strip so that the cars can drive clean into the garage. That would be another part of that project. So the reason that we're requesting a variance, if you look on the next slide, the green lines show us what the setback is, the right-of-way, the 25-foot setback that follows the path of Sunnymead Trail and Hillcrest Drive. And you can see that their far southeast corner of the garage would step over and encroach upon the existing setback. And so in order for us to continue with the garage, we're requesting a variance to Article 5.02 to allow that small corner to intrude upon that setback. This picture shows what our current house is, and I've driven a couple stakes in the ground and then extended those red lines to give you a basic footprint of where the space that garage would take up. I haven't tried to draw the roof into that, but the roof would simply be extended as it is to maintain the exact same appearance and keep the same pitch on all of it, as well as making it a hip style roof at the end, just as it is now. If you look from the side street, this is from the east, if you were on Sunnymead, which is that road just to the east of our house, looking, again, those red lines extend up to show you where the footprint of that part of the building would be. And this next one shows you the sight line from the back. If you were in my backyard looking forward to see, that's 13 feet over from the existing outer wall of our house, which is the outer wall of the garage. So this view right here is from the south, from Hillcrest, to show the sight line. The house behind us is our neighbor to the north, and we're looking directly down the edge of it. You can see from our driveway looking back that it doesn't impede their view of Hillcrest Drive. It's set out as far as their house is, a little bit back actually, but to show the sight line of that. And then this one here is if you were coming on Hillcrest or on Sunnymead toward Hillcrest Drive, to show that there's no sight line impedance at all here. You can see clearly down Hillcrest Road facing west if someone needed to turn west there, and just wanted to help see that that's not a hindrance to that. By adding the garage, which is out of sight and would be out of sight for anybody pulling up to turn, we actually create another space for a car that's currently in the driveway to be put into the garage, increasing any visibility that's there too. So we think that's an advantage as well. We have 2 kids who are students at NIU. We have 4 licensed drivers in our house and a 5th one coming up in just a few months. And so we have 4 vehicles that 2-car garage would help keep 2 of them out of the driveway and out of visibility even better. So the question, why do we need a variance in the first place? We've shown how a garage would put at that location would go over the current setback or the current right-of-way. We have a corner lot, as I showed earlier, and you can see it's got kind of an irregular lot shape to it, where it's widest on the far west and north parts, and then it just kind of shrinks following the path of both Hillcrest and Sunnymead, so that the right side is a little smaller. And then when this house was built back in 1959, when it was completed, you can see it's angled just a little bit too, so it's not really sitting square on there, so we don't have a whole lot of space really to add anything to our building without encroaching on those setbacks. So we have an irregular lot shape, and our house position puts us in a difficult spot. Here's a view of our neighborhood, and just to compare what the other corner lots look like, we have a relatively small lot size for our neighborhood. It's just a little over 10,000 square feet, and the nearest corner lot size that's nearest in size to ours is about 1,700 square feet larger, and the one right across the street is about 6,000 square feet larger. So we have a relatively small footprint to work with and just not a lot of space. Normally a corner lot is a little bigger because it has these greater setbacks. It's usually a little larger to accommodate things like additions on buildings. So there's not really another possibility for us to go to a 2-car garage on this lot without doing extensive renovations to the interior of our house, relocating maybe to the west side of the property, and then adding another drive to Hillcrest, a new access. So the expense and the effort would be far greater than putting it on this east side. If you just go through our neighborhood, this is a snapshot. Our house is the little blue picture of the house there, and then each of the numbers on those other houses represents the number of cars that has capacity in their garages. And so you can see the vast majority of the houses in our neighborhood are 2-car garages. There are a few ones. The one on the far bottom left of your map actually has a lean-to in addition to their 1-car garage. And I think more attractive than a lean-to is an enclosed garage that matches the rest of the building. And so when our house was built, 60 years ago, most people just had a single car, and so a 2-car garage wasn't seen as essential, and today it's a little impractical for most people. So the proposed addition, the front of that, as far as what it would visually look like, we're going to do brick on the front of it that matches our current brick. We actually have some leftover brick from when the house was first constructed. We've been storing that in a pile that was left for us when we bought it. And we're going to cut an opening, what is currently now the outside wall of that garage, to connect the 2 bays, the 2 garage bays, and then reuse those bricks so that the look is identical on the front side. And then we're going to transition to a quality vinyl siding that matches the color of the existing home on both the east and southern sides of that addition. We believe that this is going to add value to our home and to the established property values in the surrounding area, that if anything, as far as sight lines and visibility, it will increase visibility at that intersection as we put another car in the garage, in the new garage, which is currently the side of the house. And we're not able to see any negative impact on the sight lines, the safety, or the comfort of any of the inhabitants of the city of DeKalb. And so that's our request. Our proposal is to allow for those for this variance to allow the property to encroach on that area. And if there's any questions that I might be able to answer, I'd be glad to try, or Dan Olson, our principal planner, might have better information if you need specific details.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I open to the city.
Thank you. Yeah, the applicant gave a very thorough report and explanation, very good graphics. So it looks, you know the request, what's proposed, so I'll just go through the findings of fact for a variance. And again, the variance is the Planning and Zoning Commission has the final vote on this. It's not a recommendation. So in the UDO, we have the findings of fact. The first one is the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations of that district. So again, as mentioned, the lot is a corner lot, and this was a lot recorded in platted in 1958. It is a small corner lot. Usually corner lots are a little bit larger, so you can have, because it has two front yards basically. This is the right-of-way here. That's about a foot behind the sidewalk. It's not the street or the curb. It's the area right behind the sidewalk. And here's a 25-foot building line that's required in that zoning district. So you can see this, about a third of the garage is actually encroaching, and then the rear yard setback in that zoning district is 30 feet. The existing home already encroaches into that, so it's a legal non-conforming. And there's adding a little bit additional area into that setback too, so that's a variance request also. But as mentioned, about 80% of the homes in the area are two-car garages. To add a two-car garage in this location, they have to encroach on the setback. If they want to build something per the code, they'd have to move the garage probably on the other side of the house, do renovations inside the home. Just not feasible. So there's a true hardship in this particular case. As mentioned, the applicant did not, the second criteria, the applicant did not create this. It was platted in 1958. The homeowner bought the home in 2004. So the existing conditions were in place at the time. The hardship, again, with the two-car garages are prevalent in the whole neighborhood. Very few one-car. Only about a third of the garage is encroaching into the front yard setback. The lot is on an angle. It will not block visibility to the adjacent home to the north as you drive on Sunnymead. As you can see, they already have a paved area in front of the garage at this time. They're going to add a slight little bit of area on the side for additional pavement, and we'll stop there. They're not going to widen out the apron, the area between the sidewalk and curb. They're not enlarging that at all. They'll keep what they have. So they already have the drive access that will go into the garage. As you can see, the visibility is not going to block the garage because a lot goes out to the angle. Will not block the view of the home to the north. Important part too is as it's shown here is the square footages of the corner lots. As you can see, this one's about 10,200 square feet. The other corner corner lots here at the intersection are all well above that square footage of this one. Even the two lots here at Fairmont and Sunnymead, they have larger lot sizes too for corner lots. So corner lots typically are larger than the regular lots. They need more because they have two frontages, so you need more room for accessory structures, additions onto the home, garage additions, etc. So there's a true hardship here with this particular lot. It's much smaller than the other corner lots in the neighborhood. So the criteria, the other ones, they meet the the requirements. They're putting an addition on here that's going to match the face brick of the home with vinyl siding. There is a detail provided. The brick will, the vinyl siding will have the brick type appearance. Here's a spec sheet from Menards that was provided by the applicant showing that. So it will be compatible with the area. We did get after the agenda was posted, we did get a citizen response form from Ronald in Melody Marks, 207 Fairmont, regarding the visibility, concern about the visibility. I believe that's this lot here. As one drives south on Sunnymead and turning left onto Hillcrest Drive, indicating that there would be a block in the view. And this is taken from a car that's on Sunnymead. As you look west, the garage addition will not be near doing any blocking of the visibility there. There are cars obviously parked sometimes in the driveway and in the front here, but as long as they're not encroaching over the sidewalk, they're not in violation. Plus, with adding the additional garage space, they'll have one car in the garage and not be taking up additional driveway space. So I didn't see any visibility issue from Sunny Mead looking east or west. So there's a sample motion here recommending approval per the Exhibit A. That's the plan that shows the aerial with the overlay of the garage. So all the distances are shown on there. And also that the addition would be constructed of the brick along the south side matching the existing brick of the home and transitioning to the vinyl siding along the east and north sides of the garage matching the color of the existing home as determined by the community development director. So there's no particular detail of the home. We don't have an elevation of it, but kind of shows what materials will be shown on there. So when they apply for a permit, we'll take a look at it, make sure it meets the intent. If it's approved, meets the intent of this motion.
Thank you. Excuse me. So this is now, given that this is a public hearing, this is an opportunity for anyone who is here who may have questions or comments about. And there being none, I'm going to go ahead and read. Do you want me to read the citizen request form that we got? Or it's fine that it's in?
You can just note that they does not support based on the visibility as I kind of described. So
okay.
That's fine.
Sounds good. All right, so there being no public comment at the moment, I'll open it up to the commissioners. Start with Katarina.
I don't really have a question, but I think what you prepared is really good. Is this what you do for professionally?
Pastor.
Okay.
Thank you.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Jerry?
No.
No. Yeah.
I have one, and it, I guess, really doesn't have anything to do with the way I'm going to vote, but the person that objected to this said, with walls almost to the sidewalk. I have no idea what they were talking about. I looked at all those photographs. Does anybody?
I think they got it just got it wrong.
It sounded like they were concerned about the vehicles parked in that, and they perhaps didn't maybe look at the, we do post the details of the plan up on our webpage. They get the mailing that shows just a letter indicating what the hearing is for, and the request shows an aerial of it, the citizen response form, and the legal notice. We don't send out the all the other details of the sheet. We do reference at the hearing that you can go to our city website, public hearings, and look at all the detailed documents in terms of the plan, the layout. I'm not sure if they did that or not. If they did that, maybe
I had seen a line in there, and I didn't see it in any of the photographs. So
yeah, there's
no I have no
wall.
other questions.
Yep.
Thank you.
We were kind of wondering the same thing, and
Yeah.
we wondered if maybe they saw that shaded area.
That's
and
that's
thinking
what I
that's what I
maybe-
wondered.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. I actually do have a question, and it might, well, I'm not sure, it might be for you, Gary. And I agree, you did a great job in your presentation and all your homework that you provided to us, so thank you. I'm curious, though, so you're not going to go ahead and curb cut and onto the apron so that you're directly into the garage. You're going to have that little kind of jag, I guess, to get into your driveway and then go into your garage.
Yeah, so this picture here shows fairly well that when we added the drive that's there just to the east on the right side as we're looking at it, we added that several years ago. We didn't curb cut, but we angled that. That was what the city preferred at that time.
Okay.
And so we have the approach coming in the front using that triangle shape already in the apron, and that gives us a straight shot into the driveway, so we wouldn't need to curb cut or do any of those things.
Okay. Is there a reason why they didn't curb cut or can't or shouldn't?
It's too close to the intersection, probably.
Okay.
We want cars further back, so they're right. There's adding a foot or two on the side here. They're not touching anything between or widening it between the sidewalk and curb. So
Okay. I was just curious
Yeah.
about that.
we didn't want to get it too close to the intersection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you. So I give the public one more opportunity if there's anyone that would like to ask questions or speak. And there being none, I close the public hearing. Excuse me. And open to the commissioners one more time for any further questions or comments. And if none, I'll be happy to take a motion.
I can move. I
Okay.
haven't done it.
I'll second.
First, I think first
Oh,
we have to read it.
you have to read
no?
it first.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, based on the submitted petition, testimony presented, and findings of fact, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve a variance to Article 5.02 SFR-2 Single Family Residential District of the UDO in order to allow for a garage addition to encroach into the front and rear yard setbacks on the subject property located at 209 West Hillcrest Drive, subject to garage location as shown on the survey received on August 24th, 2018 and labeled as Exhibit A, and subject to the garage addition being constructed of brick along the south side matching the existing brick of the home and transitioning to vinyl siding along the east and north sides of the garage matching the color of the existing home as determined by the Community Development Director.
So motion by Barbie,
Second?
second by Maxwell. Roll call.
Barbie,
Yes.
Buckley, Castro, Maxwell,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Chair Doe.
Yes.
4 yes.
Thank you very much.
See, you passed.
Our second
I guess if he ever needs
excuse me.
government.
Just go through quick.
Our second item is an item for discussion, which is regarding the Annie Glidden North Revitalization Plan.
Thank you. The reason we wanted to put this rather large item on the agenda for discussion at this point is to kind of put it on your radar, let you get this large document with enough time to take a look at it between now and the scheduled public hearing, which will be at your next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. But because the document is now available on our website and because the task force has completed their work, I did want to spend a few minutes going through it. When it's presented to you at the public hearing by the staff person who was assigned to oversee this project, Aaron Stevens, a management analyst out of our city manager's office who did a fantastic job and has everything knowledgeable about this project. He'll go through this in detail with you, but I did want to go through it very generally so that you have an idea of what you're looking for and what's going to happen, and I'll also provide you with the timeline that's coming up so we have a good understanding of that. One of the things I wanted to mention, I know Bessie had some comments at the beginning of this meeting about the role of the Planning and Zoning Commission and some of the projects that you work on. That role is actually defined in the city code for the jobs and responsibilities of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So all the work that you do in terms of holding public hearings for special uses, variations, and all of the authority that you have in each of those regards is very clearly spelled out in the city code. So beyond those responsibilities, you are also charged with anything else that the council directs that you do. So, you know, if the council wants us to look at sign codes, which I'll talk about a little bit in our reports at the end of the meeting, that's something that I would get direction from the council and then come to the Planning and Zoning Commission with that information. This particular thing is one of the third and then kind of the last thing that the code talks about as a responsibility of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that is your responsibility and oversight of the city's comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan is very much in need of an update, and every year we talk about that with the City Council, and the resources that are necessary to do that project are weighed with all of the other priorities that are there, and every year, either in terms of monetary resources or staff resources, it's never become a priority to do an entire comprehensive plan update. What the council did do last year during the budgeting process, though, is authorize funding and staff resources for this Annie Glidden North project. The plan for this began in August of last year. The process did include a 30-member task force that was assigned by the mayor and the council. That's a pretty tall order. I mean, you guys know what it's like to get a majority of your group here. Imagine the task Aaron had sending out notices and trying to coordinate schedules with 30 different people on that task force. So that was that was quite an accomplishment, and one that I'm very proud of him for doing everything that was necessary to stay on top of that. But that group was amazing in talking through the issues, determining a course of action that they wanted this plan to become. So keep in mind the scope of this project as we envisioned it to do the RFP and find the consultant was your traditional scope of service. And getting the people involved and hearing the voices of that task force really caused us to take a step back and say, this isn't the plan this group wants. So we took that step back, we redefined what was necessary. That group kind of focused in on some key areas and divided into subcommittees to each take a more in-depth look at some of the things. And I didn't put that in there. So he'll go through some of those in-depth areas, but generally the categories that we looked at were safety and security, kind of looking at crime in the neighborhood, commercial and residential development. We also had safety issues that were also considered, and open space issues. So again, those priorities were identified by the group, and the commission or the task force as a whole broke into subcommittees and looked at all of that in detail. Through that process, and what you'll see when you look at this document is very early in the document, which I really like about the way this document was drafted, is it kind of boiled right down to what the findings were, and that is what you see on this screen here, and you'll see it repeated in your report, are the 10 core transformational projects. So these represent the 10 most important projects as identified by that task force in each of the 5 categories of different things that they looked at. One of the things to note, you may or may not be able to see it on the screen, in the top left corner of each one of those pictures is a number, a letter and a number reference. The letter references which subcategory was being evaluated, and then the number is, they had a number of projects in each category. So it's a good reference for you to be able to then go into the report and find more detail on each one of those projects. Again, those are the 10 most important projects, but in total, that task force identified 45 different projects or priorities that they believe are important to the future success of the Annie Glidden North area. So again, those are also referenced by those letter and number in the upper left-hand corner of each one of the projects, and you'll find a lot of really good detail, some good examples. This is where the consultant came in, because the consultant has worked in other communities that have similar types of situations, college towns, declining enrollments, surplus of housing stock. It's not unique to DeKalb. So using a consultant in that case brought us a lot of outside expertise into the project, and there's a lot of really good examples they were able to provide us. Again, that task force didn't work on its own. There was several opportunities where members of the community were brought in. They had key person interviews early in the process. We had community meetings up in the Annie Glidden North area. We had student meetings, so we really tried to incorporate as much feedback into the process as possible. And finally, the only other thing I want to talk about tonight is the schedule a little bit, because moving forward, the task force's work is completed, but your work is just about to begin. We have published the public notice for the hearing. So again, your main responsibility as a Planning and Zoning Commission member is to review any modifications to the comprehensive plan. This sub-area plan is intended to be an update or a modification to our existing plan. So in lieu of redoing the whole plan, we're saying we're going to take a look at this specific corridor. I believe your group has done that for prior plans. We have a downtown revitalization plan, which I believe a similar process was followed at that point. So we will be asking your group to hold the public hearing at your next meeting for this revision to the comp plan. So Aaron will be here. He'll give a more detailed description about the projects and the process. You might have a couple people from the task force that are there to talk about their thoughts and roles in that task force. We have also introduced this time frame right now, the 1st through the 19th, as the public comment period. So the document is up on the website. Anybody can go in. We are receiving calls and questions and comments about the document as well. We will share those with you at the public hearing. As far as city commission meetings, this document will be presented to the Human Resource Commission on October 2nd, the Economic Development Commission on October 5th, and then again at your meeting on October 17th. For now, we are scheduling meetings on a come-see basis in November. So the November 13th meeting is where we will expect to have Aaron present this to the council at a committee of the whole, again summarizing everything that we have to date. And then the council will be asked on November 26th to consider a resolution or an ordinance actually adopting the findings in the final plan based on the recommendations of the task force. You will make a recommendation and any other feedback we get from the community on the plan. So that's a brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions at this point, but just wanted to get that out there.
What are the dates on the city council meetings?
November 13th for the committee of the whole.
Okay.
And November 26th for adoption.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that meeting on October 12th, the community meeting? Do you know much about that?
October 10th?
I can't.
So I'm sorry. So community meeting is October 10th.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
We're all on the same.
My new glasses are in process.
Nothing should be below.
Okay, so October 10th, which is next Wednesday.
Right. That is one last opportunity I think the consultant is coming out for that meeting as well.
Okay.
To present the findings of the task force back to that original group that we originally, we're offering it to them.
Sure.
To see whether we captured every comments that they made and to see the work of the task force and to provide any final feedback.
Okay.
And that meeting is going to be held in University Village, in the community room at University Village.
Do you know what time that meeting's going to be?
I
by chance?
Don't know for sure, but I will find out and I'll text or email the entire commission.
Okay.
You have a quick question.
Yep.
In relation to the overall plan, are there direct correlations to certain subjects within the plan that this modifies, or do we just basically out of the comprehensive plan know what these are pertaining to?
That's a good question. When we modify or when we adopt an ordinance that updates the comprehensive plan, that becomes the guiding tool. Rather than going in and trying to strike and remove provisions in the existing code, the ordinance that approves the new plan will include language that states any conflicting information in the prior plan will be superseded by the new plan. So to the extent that the new plan talks about something that was previously identified in the prior plan as something different, the new plan will supersede that. If the underlying plan includes a recommendation that the new plan doesn't address, then the old plan would rule.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
Is there any funding necessary for the adoption of the plan or the ordinances? And is there, what is the funding plan for?
So this current project is approval of the plan. One of the items that Aaron will talk to you about that's included at the end of the report are implementation strategies. And obviously, implementation of the plan does include all of our partners. So it includes the city, it includes the university. So any implementation by the city that involves financing and budgeting needs to be discussed by the council as part of their budget process. So while we're talking about implementation strategies, and you'll see those outlined in the plan, like what we should do first, what we should do second, what we can focus on, how we move forward on those implementation strategies will really be a factor of a couple of things, really. Sometimes it's just, it comes up. If we get a proposal for a project in that area after we've adopted the plan and it's coming to the Planning and Zoning Commission, we're going to be implementing that plan, using staff time to do those components of the plan. We don't need to budget more dollars to do that. That's part of our job. Some cases will come up that don't require a lot of additional money. For example, the mayor had a recent conversation with one of our newly elected representatives Kiker, Representative Kiker was in town, and he was talking about a potential funding source that would be available for a transformational project. There's that term again. And, you know, coincidentally, that was about the time the task force was completing their work, and we were asked to submit in writing some thoughts or some potential. So because of this plan, because we have this document in place and it's on paper and it's documented, it's a great opportunity. I can't tell you how many times grants become available, and because you have that plan and you have it in writing and it's backed by a 30-member task force and approval by planning and zoning commissions and city councils, that becomes a potential funding mechanism. So that's another funding source. The other, you know, obvious thing that could happen is that the council could decide to make certain parts of the recommendations a priority, and those things that require services above and beyond what we do or outside of our partners would have to be considered with the other items that they're looking at in the budget process.
I think as I was glancing through this over the last couple of days, one of the pluses to some of the recommendations, I think, are in the process if they haven't already been implemented as well, or kind of like the beginning of an implementation, such as some of the community services that are kind of coming up in that area. I know it was discussed at a city council meeting maybe 2 months ago. So I think that, you know, the correlation between several things happening right now and then this now coming out is probably good timing. Right. Definitely. I like the layout as well of how this was written. So you said Aaron did?
So it was drafted by the consultant.
Okay.
Aaron and
input
various staff, through reviews of the initial drafts, had a lot to do with how the form, we really wanted the meat of the document to come out right at the beginning. Instead of giving us all the background and then waiting till the end to get the good stuff.
And I like how things were prioritized as well. So good job to them. If you all have not had a chance to read through this or at least look through it, obviously please make sure you do over the next 2 weeks. It's a great document.
Just a note, the community meeting on October 10th is at 6 p.m.
At 6.
At University Village.
Can you send that out in an email so we've all got it? I'm assuming we could attend.
We will need to monitor majority of a quorum for a group for the planning and zoning. So if you do plan to attend, so we want to stay within the Open Meetings Act requirements. So if you do plan on attending, please email Dan with your intentions to do that. And if we find out that we're getting over the number, we'll let you know and let you guys decide how we're going to handle that.
Great.
Anything else? Thank you.
No?
Thank you.
As Joellen's going to sit down, I do want to acknowledge the individuals that were on this task force. I recognize a lot of names and know quite a few names on this, and what a great spread out of people throughout this community that were involved in this task force. So thank you for being part of that. Okay, reports.
Our next meeting is October 17th, as noted, while the public hearing on the Annie Glen North plan, also a few other hearings. It'll be quite a full agenda. 1015 Black Hawk, that's the campus cinemas. We did receive a special use request for residential above commercial, very similar to the previous request a couple years ago, so there's a hearing on that. We also have a hearing on a couple locations, a property re-subdivision for a duplex in 2 locations on South 2nd Street and Grove Street, where there's a special use procedure to approve those. So we have hearings on those 2 locations. Also, the public hearing on the solar garden on Twombly Road, south of Suburban Apartments, that we did have a discussion on that before. So we have quite a full meeting for that. And again, let me know if attendance-wise, anybody's going to be absent for that. Let me know as soon as possible to make sure we have a quorum. Just a follow-up from the council activities, September 24th, their last meeting, they did approve the Home 2 Suites Hotel on second reading by a vote of 5-3. And also did you want to mention the committee of the whole and the sign discussion coming up? Okay.
So one of the things that's come up a couple of times, this isn't on, is it?
No, can you turn Joe Allen's mic back on, Jeff?
Test. Jeff? Thank you. I think this group and the City Council over some time has discussed the need to update our sign regulations. That is also necessitated by recent court cases which have certain new restrictions on content-based sign codes. So what our intent on October 22nd at the Committee of the Whole meeting is to kind of bring the council up to speed on what those new regulations are, what it means for our sign code, and to get some direction from them as to how they would like to prioritize updating the sign code. Because, you know, similar to the Annie Glidden North project, depending on how much staff input and city input, community and resident input, any update to a code of that size can take on a life of its own. And we really want to make sure that we're addressing the main needs that the council wishes to address, and yet do that within the resources that we have. So that conversation is going to happen on the 22nd. My hope is to get some direction from them and then bring that to you and kind of get some feedback from you as well on how we're going to proceed with an update to the sign code. So it could be, you know, we attack it in certain sections. We might want to look at certain types of signage. So maybe we, you know, start with digital signs, because that seems to be one of those things that people keep bringing up, along with temporary signs and how we treat temporary signs and how often we permit them, those sorts of things. So I think we'll get some feedback. We'll bring that back again under items for discussion until we figure out the process by which we're going to go through to draft updates to the code. We'll work with you through that, and then ultimately we'll need to do a public hearing for anything that's going to be going back to the council for formal adoption. The other thing I wanted to mention, and Chris, I know you and I talked about this a little bit, is some training opportunities. So we do kind of monitor some things that are available. Our schedules have been pretty full. And as Dan mentioned, you know, there's opportunities at some meetings that we might have a little bit of time to dive into some training. The other thing that we've talked about is maybe an annual joint meeting with the council, so that we can kind of come back together and say, here's some of the things we worked on. You know, were there recommendations that we made as a Planning and Zoning Commission that the council, you know, had questions on? I think your work has been almost always supported at the council level. I mean, you know, where you guys have been divided, sometimes the council is also divided. Things that go forward with your unanimous recommendation, I think, are always pretty much unanimously supported by the council. That's not, you know, always going to be the case, but I think it is a good idea. And Chris had this idea of, and maybe you did it in the past with past groups, of getting together, doing a joint meeting just to touch base and talk about, you know, questions you have or directions that you go, things that you as a commission would like to see, because again, it's council that's going to provide that direction and policy direction to us to bring stuff back to you, but it doesn't prevent you from sharing with them what your concerns are so that they can consider that as part of their budgeting process. So I just wanted to update you on that.
I think that's a really good idea, because I also thought sometimes we need to revisit decisions that we have made, because sometimes it turned out differently than we thought it might be. I mean, I'm that stupid sign on Sycamore Road that always makes me think there's a police car coming, and it's not. And that's something very important that and maybe it's just I'm getting old, I can't see it anymore, but there's certain things that maybe we want to revisit and learn from
Absolutely.
That. Yeah, so I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, and it gets people focused on the issues, you know, rather than us trying to put together a code that's pretty, you know, generic in terms of what other communities are doing. We can talk about what's specific to DeKalb and make it the best code for our community.
No, I'm glad you said something. So I know at our next meeting we're going to talk about the solar piece. Can you give us an update as to what happened at the county meeting? I wasn't able to attend.
The hearing officer at the county did grant the city the extra time to work with the applicant and do not a technical public hearing, because that's not within our purview, but we did notice it like a public hearing. So we sent stuff out to the adjoining property owners, actually all the way down to Hillcrest. So notice, you know, we did 250 feet
Plus.
all the way, but to the south, we did it all the way down to Hillcrest. We have met with the applicant to talk about our suggestions for providing the additional right-of-way that I mentioned on both the east and west sides of that property. They've met with our fire department to do flow tests on the fire hydrants to make sure that they were going to have adequate water and pressure to fight a fire if something happened in that area, and I think we're satisfied with that. So we're going to come to you with that recommendation or that information and ask that you make a recommendation moving forward that will also, again, be shared with the council and taken back to the hearing officer so that they know what the city's position.
Gotcha. Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll be happy to take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
So moved by Barbie, second by Wright. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Is there ever